From 0 to 100 mil in 4 years and then some. 0.04% of companies get to 9 figures. Mm-hmm. Did you start thinking that you'd get there?
No, that was never even a thought or a possibility for sure.
What?
When ClickFunnels came out, as you know, it blew up and out of necessity, we're here now. And I never dreamt that initially, but now that we're here, it's been so much fun. It's been the ride of a lifetime. And
becoming a master is not about doing 4,000 things. It's about doing 12 things 4,000 times.
The Ultimate Sales Machine presents the CEO Mastery Show for entrepreneurs looking to grow faster, better, smarter.
The average salesperson sells between $6 and $8 million per year. We just sold $8 million targeting our Dream 100 using core story messaging.
The Elevated Dream 100 Bootcamp. Visit thedream100.com. That is thedream100.com.
We are live. Welcome, everybody. The crowd goes wild. We have Sir Russell Brunson here with us. From 0 to 100 mil in 4 years and then some. You have done so much for so many entrepreneurs all around the world. You are such a bright light. A million entrepreneurs follow you. Multiple New York Times bestselling books. They're without arm's reach, or I would grab it. It's right here. And today we're going to cover something called Dream 100, which is something that we have in common. Before we get there, though, I am curious. So 0.04% of companies get to 9 figures. Mm-hmm. Did you start thinking that you'd get there?
You know what's funny is no, that was never even a thought or a possibility for sure.
What?
I remember one of the very first times I heard your dad speak, he went through the numbers of where every company was at.
Yes.
I think we were about $1 million in sales. And I was like, yeah, we made it to like past all, and I remember one time I started growing my company, as I got bigger, like I got more and more stress and anxiety. And I was like, I don't ever want to grow a big company. I'm good just having a small one. And then when ClickFunnels came out, as you know, it blew up and out of necessity, we're here now. And I never dreamt that initially, but now that we're here, it's been so much fun. It's been the ride of a lifetime and learned so many cool things, met so many amazing people along the way. I'm just super, super grateful for, where it's kind of gone.
Wow. I just recently interviewed Clay Mass too, and he said the same thing. He had not planned for a 9-figure business. It's just amazing. Yeah. So you were just sharing with me. So can you share for everybody where you originally heard the Dream 100 and your story about Fiji? That's great.
Yes, definitely. In fact, so I can't remember exactly some course. So this is, those who don't know me, I'm like a marketing nerd. So I buy every course known to man. And I bought somebody's course. I was listening to it. I think like CD or DVD, number 4 was this guy I'd never heard before. His name was Chet Holmes. And I started listening to him and I was like, what in the world? This guy's amazing. I was like freaking out. So then I went and I bought like every Chet Holmes thing I could buy. I started going through all the courses, all the everything. And then messaged him and kind of got to know him a little bit, kind of personally, not super well, just kind of, through phone and through calls. And then this was, now it's probably 11 years ago, but a little over a decade ago, I had a chance to go speak at Tony's event in Fiji, Tony Robbins' event in Fiji. And I got there and we're walking around Namale the very first day. And all of a sudden I see Chet walking the other way. I was like, I'm like, Chet, what's going on, dude? And so we kind of said hi. And I remember the event was in this little tiny, if anyone's ever been to Namale, there's this little event space that holds maybe 50 to 100 people. It's kind of small. And it was crazy. We're in there and Tony was sitting in there and Chet was in there. And I remember sitting there, I was in the front row as Chet was teaching, and he was teaching the stuff I've been listening on his books and his courses and everything. And I remember he taught the concept of Dream 100. I'm sitting there at his feet, just like my eyes were like this big, just going through it again. And it's funny because afterwards we're at dinner or something. He's like, of all the people in this room, you definitely seem like you were paying the most attention. And I was like, I'm sitting at the feet of you, listening to you teach the stuff that I've read about in books and listened to in CDs. This was like the most amazing experience ever. And so that was a little over 10 years ago now, which is kind of cool.
Oh my gosh. And I'm sure he would be proud at everything that you've done to carry that on and be honoring of his legacy. So I thank you for that, Russell. It's really beautiful what you've been able to bloom and take to a whole new life, which is what we're going to talk about right now, is this whole concept of, originally it was lumpy mail. It was, follow up via phone. It was, send a fax. So I know. So what does Dream 100 look like for you today?
Yeah, it's interesting. When I first read the book and first started trying the concepts of it, it was for me. It was like, okay, Chet send something in the mail, and then 2 weeks later, call him on the phone. So I'd send everybody something in the mail, and I call him on the phone, and send him the mail, and call him on the phone, and I followed it pretty religiously. But over the last decade that I've been doing it, it definitely for me has morphed. I was kind of before we started recording, I was talking about how. For me, most of Dream 100 nowadays happens in DMs on Instagram and Facebook and TikTok and things like that, where now I'm in there and it's like, a lot of times I still send things in the mail. So like, I don't not do that piece of it, but I think a lot of people think that Dream 100 means send them something in the mail and then just wait and hopefully they'll call you back and like, they'll notice you. And it's like, no, it's the core essence of it is like building relationships with the people who have your customers on it. Right. And so for me, it's like, who do I want to get to know? Like a good example of this is Ryan Holiday, who's one of my favorite authors. I got one of his little coins right here. Like he's amazing. And so him, as well as everyone else in my Dream 100, I follow them on Instagram and Facebook. And every day I get my phone out and I just swipe through and I see what people are doing. And this is when Ryan was finishing one of his most recent books and he posted a picture of the manuscript. And so I was like, oh, like he's coming out with a new book. I didn't even know. So I'm in the comments like, dude, I can't wait for your book to come out. And I'm freaking out excited. And then he messaged me. He's like, hey, are you the Clickfunnels guy? I'm like, yeah. He's like, oh, I just saw you comment on my thing. I was like, dude, I'm like your biggest fan. He's like, are you serious? Like, this is so cool. I'm like, oh, and it started a relationship. And since then, he's come and spoken at my events. I sent him gifts. Like actually, I found one of Marcus Aurelius's original books from the 1400s on eBay, and I bought it and I shipped it to him as a gift. And it's not just randomly sending people stuff all the time. It's how do you actually build a real connection and real relationship. And so but a lot of it's happening through social media nowadays because it's such an easy way to actually pay attention to people and actually show them that you care more than just like, oh, I'm going to send them something and cross my fingers and hope that something good happens back in return.
Yes. I love that. And can you share with us a little bit, because it's a combo, right? So if you send out a mail and like you said, you wait for it and you don't reply or ask for that. I just had this happen to me in my DMs on Instagram this morning. This woman sent out this wonderful, really funny picture. Like you had me at OYO. So it was just a funny gift. And so I was asking, oh, well, did you get any of them as clients? And she's like, what do you mean? And I'm like, oh boy. Okay. Well, the next step is to get them as a client. So, can you share a bit?
Message them. Step 2 is to follow up until you build a connection. The step 3, you have to ask them something. I see some people like always try one piece of the process, right? Like, I remember one of our friends, Dana Derricks, he came out with a course teaching this concept of Dream 100 as well. I remember after that, I started getting piles of boxes in my office because everyone's like sending me boxes. I was like, so many boxes, I couldn't even open them all. I'm like, I don't even know what to do. And it's like, and then nothing. Like I didn't hear from people ever again. It's like they just step 1, but they didn't follow up. They if you read The Ultimate Sales Machine, it's like Chet would send some lumpy mail in the mail, and 2 weeks later, he'd call him on the phone, and then send something lumpy in the mail, and he's like. He talked about pig-headed discipline, right? He's like pig-headed discipline until the connection is made. And most people like just in step 1. And the second step is like, again, following up until you can start that connection. And then the third step people forget or they freak out about is like, now you have to ask people for something. Like, what do you, like, why are you contacting me? Sometimes I get all these gifts in the mail. It's like really, really cool. But I'm like, what's the reason? Like, let me know, like why I'm aware that you're trying to do something. Like, it's not scary. Like, it shouldn't be scary just to ask. And that's kind of the last step. Now something amazing can happen from that. But if you don't do all the steps, then you're just sending someone a gift or you're just following up. If you don't ask, then you kind of missed it.
Biggest takeaway, the Dream 100 is to create a relationship to work with them in some capacity. I love that. We missed the steps along the way. So can you share with me a bit of like some ideas that you've done with lumpy mail? Because today, right, there's so much online, but if you can cut through the clutter by doing something physical, by doing something that catches their attention, and we can go into a couple more ideas of how you've gotten the attention of some really wonderful people to grow your company. But what's some good lumpy mails that you've done that you might be proud of or even gotten from someone else?
Yeah. Man, there's so many fun ones. I got actually a mailbox the other day and do you want to see it? It's right there. I can grab it. I'll turn off screen. It's a legit cool mailbox. Give me 1 second. It's kind of cool. Somebody literally sent this mailbox to me
Oh my gosh.
There was a letter at the time, and it's like, I know I'm just sending you a letter in the mail. I'm sending you an actual mailbox as well. So that was kind of cool. And now it stands outside my door. I'm waiting for somebody to put actual mail in it. It hasn't happened yet, but that was a really good, like, when a box that holds this thing in here shows up at your office, like, everybody stops what they're doing. Like, what in the world is this thing, right? We stop, we open, we figure out what it is. And so that was a really fun one. For me, a lot of times when I'm doing Dream 100, it's because I write books. And so, like, that's one of the things I do. And so a lot of times I'll send out my book. Sometimes though, like when I did my Expert Secrets book launch, my book wasn't finished yet. I wanted my Dream 100 to be aware of it. So we actually took a copy of the book and printed it when it was completely blank, had the cover on it, but all the pages were blank just because it wasn't done yet. And I wanted them to be aware, like, there's a book coming. And so I sent this book out. It was completely blank to about 450 people or so as a way to start the process. I've also done ones where I sent like the manuscript, because some people like geek out on that. I'm like, here's the manuscript.
Yeah.
I sent out the manuscript to people. When the .com Secrets book came out, the affiliate prize we were giving away was a Ferrari that I'd won in some other contest. And so we actually went on eBay and started buying these Ferrari keychains, as many as we could find. And it was funny because there's not a place you can buy like 500 Ferrari keychains. So it was like, we bought 20 from this guy and 30 from this guy. And on eBay, someone had 2 over here. And like, it was this huge process of us buying these Ferrari keychains. And we started sending out Ferrari keychains to everybody, like, hey, here's a keychain to your new car you're going to win as soon as you help us promote this new book. And anyway.
I love that story because that was the first Dream 100 I ever got.
Oh, really?
Was your Ferrari keychain. Yeah, I kept it for years. I'm like, this guy's really funny. Wow, I can't believe it. He Dream 100 in me. This is great. That's so funny. I also loved you did a superhero comic once. I got that one from you. Yep,
we did a whole comic kind of like telling the story of the launch and all that kind of stuff. And that was a really fun one too, because if something's different, someone shows up and it's like, what is this? And you start reading it, you get sucked into the actual story of what we're trying to do and create. And it's pretty cool.
I've done like so many trainings over the times that I've been in this industry and in this job. And like, hands down, it's easily the best training that I've done. Here, it's really like personable, and this is easily my favorite. And I've gotten the most knowledge from it, so.
The Elevated Dream 100 Bootcamp. Visit thedream100.com. That is thedream100.com.
So what would be, let's say, a really big Dream 100 for you that you were able to secure as a client or an affiliate that just changed your world?
Yeah, there's so many good ones. I would say probably the one that's the biggest. This is like everybody's big fish they're all trying to catch. Biggest was definitely Tony Robbins. And we made a video kind of showing the process, but it was a decade-long process for me to get into Tony's world. And I think it's interesting because I watch when people try to approach me or they try to approach, and a lot of times they get so nervous that they're going into relationships to try to figure out, like, what do I get out of this? And with Tony, I was like, if I do that, he's got 1 million people all doing that, right? Everyone's trying to like get something from Tony. And I was like, I'm going to go the opposite way and just like see what I can do to help Tony. How can I serve him? Like, what do I have that I can help him with? And so if you look at the first like 8.5 years of that relationship, I was just like, anytime like him or someone was seeing me anything, I was like helping and serving and trying to do all sorts of stuff. And it eventually built a relationship, and he knew who I was, and he invited me to do some things, and it started that relationship. And then it was when the Expert Secrets book came out, it was like 8.5 years into this relationship. The first time I was like, hey, if the answer is no, totally say no. I don't really care. I just like, I have to ask you, this book came out, and like, would you any way you'd interview me about this book? And he was like, yeah. And anyway, for me, like, I was melting down, and he had an interview on his fan page that got seen. I think by 3.5 million people have seen that interview on his fan page of him interviewing about my book. We sold, thousands of copies of the book from it. And so that was a big one. That was special to me because it took a lot longer. And I think that the really good relationships typically do. Even when I met your dad initially, I wasn't like, okay, how do I get Chet to promote my thing? It was like, well, let's build a relationship. Like, how can I help them, and what can I do? And, I don't know how much of the story but we helped them with some of the call center stuff they were doing. We helped drive traffic. We helped
really?
Like, I was like, I'm not going to come in and like ask Chet, can you help me with this? I was like, I'm going to sell some copies of his book because that's helpful, right? And like, I try to take my assets, my things, and help people. And so I think that's for me, usually the first step is I'm looking at these relationships like, hey, what can I do to help them? What can I do to serve them? And I just try to serve people like crazy in any way I can. And then when I have something happening, like, oh, I have a book coming out, or, oh, I have a something, then I don't feel awkward asking for something, because I've tried to put in the, probably put in goodwill ahead of time. There's a book, I can't remember who wrote it. I never actually read the book, but the title of the book was Dig Your Well Before You're Thirsty. And every time I think about that, like, that's what most people miss in Dream 100 as well, is that, like, they're waiting. Okay, I'm writing a book, or my product's coming out, or my company's launching. So they're waiting until it launches, and then they reach out to people. And it's like, then you're reaching out with, like, looking for them to help you. And it's like, like, Dream 100 should start like yesterday, right? It should start like today for some of you guys, like, start right now, because you're building relationships for something that's coming down the, in the future. And so you're digging your well before you're thirsty. You're planting those seeds now. So someday, maybe it's, some of you guys might be a month from now, so maybe 6 months, maybe a year from now, when you have the next thing you're doing, then it makes sense for somebody to help you promote it or do whatever it is at that point. So I think that's a lot of people are short-sighted on that. It's like, look, it's not, don't come into my world trying to get me to promote something initially. Like, come in and, like, how can I serve? What can I give? What can I do? And that's where it all should begin. That's where in any good relationships, that's where it begins with, right? If you were on a date with someone the very first time and you were asking, question about what's in it for you, they're not going to be a second date. And same thing is true in Dream 100.
Right. So when you first started, was it a Dream 100? This is something that people ask all the time. Does it have to be 100? Was it 20? Was it 10? What was your number back in the day?
Yeah. So for me, when I got started doing it, so we were back 10 years ago. This is before Facebook,
ClickFunnels,
Instagram, or any of those kind of things.
Yeah.
And so the Dream 100 back then was different than how I do it now. Back then, it was just like, okay, who do I know that has an email list? Yeah. And so I just tried to get as many people as I could. I think, back then it was probably 70 or 80 people that I was able to find. I wasn't able to find 100 back then. So that's about what we did. And then when social media started coming in, and also, like, the podcast came out, right? And I was able to go to the podcast app on iTunes and click on my category and say, here's the top 200 podcasts in your market. I'm like, boom, there's 200 Dream 100 right there. iTunes gave it to me for free, right? And then I was like, okay, now here's my 200 people, the top 200 podcasts in iTunes. Let me go to Instagram. I start searching. Okay, how many people can I find on Instagram that have my dream customers, right? And I might find 30 or 40 or 50 on Instagram, and I go to Facebook, and I go to TikTok. And so I go through each channel now, and I try to build a Dream 100 in each channel. And some channels are easy. Like, podcasting is easy because it ranks the top 200 podcasts in a category. So I got 200 people right there. Other ones are harder. Instagram might be harder for me to find, or Facebook, or these other ones might be harder. And so for me, I usually end up between all the platforms somewhere. Like my last book launch, I think I had about 600 people on my Dream 100 list. But back when I first started, it was 50 or 60, because that's all I could find.
The thing that you taught us has been my best performing LinkedIn post ever. This Core Story Bootcamp has paid for itself in week 1 out of 4 already.
The Elevated Dream 100 Bootcamp. Visit thedream100.com. That is thedream100.com.
Now that you have so many different mediums for the Dream 100, how are you dictating that? Have you systematize that amongst your staff? How does that look as you've evolved?
Yes, great question. So we it's something so Dream 100 for us is always evolving too. I think people take a snapshot and, like, this is our Dream 100. It's like, no, it's always evolving. So for example, on me, when I'm on social media, I'm on Instagram or Facebook, whatever, I'm doing stuff. People will just pop into your feed you never met before, right? You're like, oh, who's this person? I'll follow them. Like, oh, this person's awesome. I'll contact him, and then I'll send to my team, like, hey, add so-and-so to our Dream 100 list. This person's great. And then we just keep it. So it's always evolving and growing. So that's kind of what's happening. And then we will randomly send out probably once a quarter or so, send something to most of the people on our Dream 100, just with no nothing, no promotional thing, looking for, just like, hey, here's a cool thing, or hey, here's a gift, or we're just doing something. That way, when the first time they hear from me, it's not just like, oh, hey, my new book's coming out, or hey, the new thing, it's like, there's other things happening. And we probably should do that more often. Like, in a perfect world, I'd be doing like at least once a month. And, in fact, I'm going to coach myself. Russell, you should do at least once a month.
Yeah.
So,
you gave me one year, for Christmas, you sent out one, and I got a wooden toothbrush, and I use those wooden toothbrushes now. I loved them.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I should buy stock in that company now.
That's funny.
That is cool.
So you do have them doing things as well and sending out mailers, and do you have specific like sales people that are doing this as well, or is it more from a marketing automation standpoint?
So we have 3 people on our team that are our affiliate managers or JV managers, Dream 100 managers, whatever you want to call them. And so their job is to keep touch with these people more often. So they follow people on social. They're looking what's happening. If they're having a kid, or if they're something's they're paying attention to those things. They're trying to talk to them also, and also figure out, because it's not always like, Dream 100 is not always like, okay, I have a book launch, promote this one day. A lot of times it's just like, how can we work together? Like, what are you doing? Like, what's your number one? I remember Sean Stevenson, who's one of my friends, passed away a little while ago. I remember, man, he was so brilliant. He called me one day out of the blue, and he was like, he said, hey, what's going on? And we started talking. He's like, what is it that you're working on right now that you're most passionate about? And for me at the time, I was like, well, I have this, we were doing this reality TV show thing. We were filming everything was happening and building funnels. And he was like, cool. Like, how can I support you in that? And I was like, I don't even know. He's like, well, do you want to fly out here and film one with me? And we can build a funnel together. We can launch it. And like, you can tell my whole story. I was like, yeah, that'd be amazing. And so we flew out there and did the whole thing with him. But the question he asked was so cool. It wasn't, hey, Russell, can you help promote my blah, blah, blah? He was like, what are you working on? And how can I work with you to help support what you're doing? And it turned this amazing thing where we both got value from it. And so that's what a lot of what our Dream 100 managers are doing, is just like filling out, like, what are you guys working on? What can we do to support? Like, oh, you have an event. Can we send some Clickfunnels people to help? You have a mastermind happening. Can we send some of our books as gifts to all your attendees? Like, just trying to figure out ways that we can build a relationship with people beyond just like a promotion. And from that, we've had some amazing deals that have gone through that weren't tied to any big promotion that was happening on the ClickFunnels side. We've had people in different countries who are like, hey, I'm actually the person that runs ClickFunnels in Italy. We're doing an event. We've got 500 people showing up. And so we'll send someone down there. We'll send them all gifts, or what, all these things that just happen that now opens up this, now we have this huge following happening in Italy because there was one person there that we had kind of met, and now we built a relationship, and now they're, teaching ClickFunnels and selling ClickFunnels to all these people here in the other part of the world without us even there. And so it's just looking for all that kind of stuff.
What I also take away from what you're saying is that you're coming from this place of service, which I really feel that you live that life. And, I believe in that as well, of just how can I be of service? And there's this belief in our world today that it's all about, whatever I can get is best. What can I get? What can I get? But the true gift is in giving, right? What can I give? And then what you receive is just so much more bountiful because you weren't expecting it and you were just there to give. So something that you're saying, I really feel that energy, not only with you, but also within your organization. That's such a great way to live life.
Yeah. I remember listening to a coaching call probably almost a decade ago with a mentor. His name's Matt Fury. And he said something that just like stuck in my head. Because he was talking about making money and stuff, but he said something that it was just, I wasn't expecting it. And I think that's why it hit me so hard. But he was talking about how, like, when he goes out to dinner, he always tips people at least $100, and he does or 100% tip and all these things. And he said this quote, he said, the size of the hole that you give from will be the size of the hole you receive through. And I remember thinking, I was like, well, I want to give more then because I want to receive more, right? Like, it's just, and so I started thinking about that. And so for me, it started with the same thing, like tipping. Okay, next time I tip, instead of tipping 15% or 20%, like for me to tip $100 is going to change somebody's life that doesn't affect me at all, right? So let me start there. And then it's like, okay, I'm in a relationship with somebody, like we're working together. Like, instead of looking at like, what can I get? It's like, let me serve this person. Let me figure out how can I help them. Like, what can I do? Try to help there. And then something good will happen. Like, it may not be directly from this conversation or from something else, but like might open up a door where, something else happens, and who knows like what happens. But it seems like the more good stuff you do, the more opportunities open up, the more things start happening on the other side of it. And so just trying to think of those things and doing it in a way that isn't like doing it in a way there's nothing in it for you, right?
Yeah.
Like before this call got on, you asked me a question, and I was like, oh, I can do this thing really quick. And like, there's nothing like, I'm not gonna get anything out of it. I'm gonna message this person. There's nothing in it for me. Hopefully it serves you. And then somehow something magic will come from it. I don't even know what it is. And I may never know what it is, but something great will happen because of that, you know what I mean? So I think the more we start looking at that and being willing to do that, trying to do something without it, looking at what the ROI is going to be, that's when amazing stuff happens. So it's interesting.
So not just for your Dream 100, although that's a critical point with your Dream 100, but it's also a way of life and living. You know, when you were talking about the tips, I had thought about my father did this once where he went up to a house that had so many Christmas lights on it that we walk up and I'm like, Dad, what are we doing? He's like, come here. He brings me up to the front door, knocks on the front door. I'm like, Dad, what are we doing? And he goes, hi, we're from the Chamber of Commerce. We're here to celebrate you that you have the most decorated home in the county, and here is your reward. And he handed him $200, and the guy went, oh, wow! And I'm like, oh my God, what are we doing? and then we walked away and we laughed so hard, you know. But he's like, for now and forever, he's always going to put up Christmas lights. So isn't that wonderful? It was just like one of those where you're like, there's no reason for it, but the giving was just so hilariously wonderful.
That is too cool.
Anyway, so looking back over the years of running Dream 100s, is there something that you've learned that's like, wow, I wish I had known that earlier so I could have stopped that from happening?
Yeah, I think I was short-sighted at the beginning of just trying to ask people to promote stuff. One of my friends, I believe it was, I think it was Rachel Pedersen. I believe that's her. But she was showing me what she does. And it's not just like, here's something I'm going to send out to every single person on the list at one time. What she does is she actually finds the person and goes to their Amazon profile and sees like someone's got like a wish list, like here's things that I want. And then she sends them things directly from the wish list, which now it's like a very personal thing, right? Like Ryan Holiday, when we started hanging out talking, and like, you know, half his books are on Stoicism and Marcus Aurelius and stuff. I was like, okay, what can I give him that no one else is going to give him, right? And so that's when I went into eBay and I was searching and I found this old book and I was like, I love old books. And so like I sent him that. With Tony Robbins, like when after the very first time we met, I was like, what do I send somebody who literally has like anything you could possibly want? Yeah. And I was like, well, like the very first thing I ever created myself was like a potato gun. My first product was a DVD teaching potato gun. So I actually sent Tony the potato gun that I made on the DVD. I was like, this is a weird gift, but like, he'll remember this. So I sent him my potato gun. And I remember he sent me back a message. He's like, this is the coolest thing. I've never shot a potato gun. He's like, how does it work? Teach me how it works. And so like, we're going back and forth, and him and Sage are shooting in their backyard, like all this craziness. And it's like, but now there's a connection point, right? Like anytime that, you know, and again, I have no idea what'll happen with Ryan Holiday or anyone else, like they have that thing, they remember you, right? They remember that connection point. And so I think like I would have been, and I'm trying moving forward in my life to be more personal. Like, and it's tough for me because I'm not, my love language is not gift giving. So like by default, that doesn't like cross my mind. So I'm trying to be more aware of it as I see something like, okay, like what would that person actually want? Like what's something that would build a connection point that I couldn't get any other way, you know? And so anyway, so it's just I think be more personal as opposed to like, here's this mass market thing you send out to everybody.
I've got tears running down my face, Amanda. I am so grateful.
The Elevated Dream 100 Bootcamp. Visit thedream100.com.
You know, even when we launched ClickFunnels, the very first thing we did, and nowadays people do it all the time. I think we were one of the first, not the first, but we had these video cards we imported from China where you open them and there's a video playing, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so we did that, but I was like, if I just make one video and send it to everybody, it's going to seem kind of weird. So I sat in my car with a video camera and I recorded a personal video for every single person on my Dream 100. It took me 8 hours. I had the biggest headache. It was like, hey, what's up, Joe? Remember that one time we were blah, 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 blah. That was so cool. Hey, I got a quick question for you. You know, and then I went through and made a personal video for every single person. And then we had to go and unload each one on a video. It took way more time, but it was so much more personal. And that when someone got it, they opened up and it's like me personally talking to them. It started this conversation. And I think looking at it less of like, this is going to be some big mass spam technique. It's going to make me millions of dollars. And like, no, this is a mass connection technique where I got to connect with people. Like how do I do that at a different level? I think that's probably the biggest takeaway that I wish I would have done better from the very beginning. So
I love that. And so because you scaled so quickly with your Dream 100, are there any like growing pains that you had as you started to realize, oh my God, I have so much here. What do I do now? Like, what were some of those gaps?
Oh man, there's been so many growing pains growing ClickFunnels. In fact, someday I bought the domain bootstrap.com, and someday one of my books on writing is gonna be Bootstrap, telling the ClickFunnels story someday, because there's so many of those things. But that was a big, there's this whole supply and demand. Like, you have no customers, and so you don't need customer support. Then you get a whole bunch of customers, and you need to get more customer support. And then and it's just like this yin yang of how do you grow and scale. And then we grew too fast, and then the servers couldn't handle what we were doing, and just a lot of those kind of things. But I think one of the best things we did with ClickFunnels is we tried to do get all of our Dream 100 promote this thing at once. And it caused chaos, and it caused frustration in the system, and all those things, right? And so when we stepped back, we shifted to okay, this is a long-term business. This is not just a one-off promotion. This is a long-term thing. And so we started looking at it differently, as opposed to let's get 100 Dream 100 all promote on the same day, to hey, can we get one Dream 100 this week, and then one next week, and one the next week, and just kind of roll this thing forward. And so that became the thing we shifted to, which was nice because it gave us time to build a relationship with each individual person and figure out how to customize this presentation for their audience. And a lot of people don't know this. We did the initial ClickFunnels launch, and it kind of bombed. And then
why?
Partially the sales message wasn't right. Partially we tried to get everyone to promote a free trial and didn't convert well. And so then everyone stopped promoting, and it was just we lost, And I remember a couple of weeks later, I spoke at an event. I did a webinar, or I created a webinar presentation. I spoke at the event, and it converted really well. Okay. So I came back, and we started calling people who I knew who were Dream 100s. And I was like, hey, I just did this webinar presentation. It worked really good. Want to do it to your list? And they said yes. And then I called the next person. And the first year of ClickFunnels, I did a live webinar. I can't remember. I think it was 60 some odd times in a row. I did a live webinar. So 60 one-off live presentations, and each one's 2 to 3 hours long. And it was just it was brutal. It was excruciating. The first year, I'm not going to lie, there were days where I was just this is the worst thing ever, where some days I did 2 webinars in a day, but it was just but I was, we were excited where it was it was the launch phase of it all. But that gave us the ability to scale and to grow over a long period of time, and that to work with each Dream 100 individually, because everyone had different things they wanted. Some people's audience wanted this, and so some wanted this, and we were able to build custom funnels for people to match what they were teaching their audience. And there are a lot of things we could do when it was a slower rolling launch, as opposed to just let's go dump all the fuel on the fire at the very beginning. And for us, that changed everything. It gave us the ability to grow and scale into what we were doing, to really work with each Dream 100 and maximize the relationship for them, so they made the most amount of money. They were able to be successful with it as well, and long term their customers were successful with us as well too.
Okay. Fire round, last question. What is fueling your passion today? You've been running, you've been going, you've been growing. What still fuels the fire? What keeps you running?
Oh man, it's that's such a good question. I get people ask me, my wife specifically, why do you keep doing this? We could just be done. I'm
yeah.
No, I wish I could, but for me, it's been really fun. I think when I got into business, I got into it because I think a lot of people I want to make money. And so you start doing that, and you have success with it, you get the significance, and that's the initial high you get from business. But eventually, for those who've been doing this for a while, that initial high kind of goes away, and all of a sudden money does not become as useful. You're oh, this is just the thing now. Now it's sitting in a bank account. That loses its energy as well. But the thing that has been so rewarding for me through ClickFunnels is I think we're at 130,000 active members right now. And thank you. It's exciting. Each of those people are entrepreneurs. And I believe entrepreneurs are the only people in this world that are going to actually change the world. It's not government. It's not schooling. It's people like me and you who care about our thing. And I look at those 120,000 some odd people, and I know so many other stories where I've had a chance to sit with people and talk to them. And one example, I talk about a lot is Brandon and Caitlin Poland. When they came into our world, they were broke. They built their first funnel. They launched it. And now they employ over 100 people, and you have 1.something million women that they've helped lose weight in this journey. And wow. I look at the ripple effect that business has had on how many millions of people's lives, right? And it's not just the people who lost the weight, right? It's the person who lost the weight, but now it's that person's family and the people they serve. And the ripple effect is huge. And that's just one of our 120,000 people, right? And then there's Chris at chrisbeescancer.com, one of the most amazing dudes ever. And he's gone and built this thing, and he's helped save thousands of people's lives from cancer and help them. And it's that's number two person, then 3. And you look at those, 10 people, 20, 50, 100, and you look at times 120,000 people, it's billions of people's lives are being changed by the mission that we have here. So for me, that's at this point, that's what fires us up. Every day we have meetings here, and whenever we have a meeting, we always start with the first part of our meetings is what we call What We Do Matters. They come and say, hey, well, just, before we started, what we do matters. Here's another story from someone from our community. And they tell a story. And every day there's a new story. And every day it's like this thing. And for me and for our entire team, it's like, what we do actually does matter. It's not just like I'm coming into the business and clocking in and out. It's like, no, this affects people's lives, and that person's life affects their families and then their employees and then their customers. And like that ripple effect, just it's magical when you look at it. So for me, that's it. We're just trying to help more people the best we can. And we make a lot of mistakes along the way, but we're trying and we're having fun doing it. And it's just been super fulfilling. So I don't know. That's kind of where we're at.
That's amazing. And it's just a full circle. You learned Dream 100 from my father. And then even last year, CHI we doubled our sales last year because I built out 6 new micro funnels within Clickfunnels, right? I wouldn't have been able to go at that speed with my team if it weren't for your tool.
I'm grateful for you, for your father. Like he changed my life in so many ways. And I'm just grateful that you're carrying his mission on and helping more people. My biggest, I think for all of us, like we're in this life and we're trying to do what we can over here while we're living. And, we always hope that what we do lives beyond us. And that's what, it's the impact side of it. And I think it's magical watching what you're doing now. And I'm sure your dad's just so proud seeing that, like, oh my gosh, this thing that I created initially, how it's living on beyond him. And now all the cool, amazing things you're doing to it now. And like, it's really cool. So I'm grateful to be here with you today.
And so many people have benefited from Dream 100 because of that succession, right? From what you've taught, from what my father's taught, from what I'm doing. So it's wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for the impact that you make.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate that.
I love being part of this boot camp and having my entire team be there with me as we work through this. I mean, we're an ad agency and digital marketing company. We help clients with messaging, but a lot of times we lose that in ourselves because we get so busy doing things for other people. We don't do it for ourselves. And this is a great for my team and I.
The Elevated Dream 100 Bootcamp. Visit thedream100.com. That is thedream100.com. Subscribe for more videos. Claim your free Chapter 4 of The Ultimate Sales Machine. This chapter helps you get 9 times more impact from every move you make. Visit ultimatesalesmachine.com. This has been the CEO Mastery Podcast, brought to you by The Ultimate Sales Machine.